it took a while, but like I ended up finding people to be in the band, and it's funny. I tell people like half my band is from Craigslist. No one uses that anymore, but it was musicians wanted ads from Craigslist for my guitarist and my drummer. That's Erik and Daniel, and those guys are still in the band, two of my very best friends, which is just hilarious.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com, joined by Cassy of Hinayana. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How's it going?
It's going well. I had to practice that name like 85 times and ask you how to say it before we started. So, first things first, you have a brand new album coming out, Shatter and Fall on Napalm Records, huge European tour coming up with Wolfheart. But before anything else, let's jump into a little origin of the band and the origin of this interesting name.
So basically, this band started as a solo project for me back when I had just gotten out of. It's funny. I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago now, but it was back when I was around 18, 17 or 18 years old, and I just really wanted to write music, and I wanted to play metal. But I grew up out in Dripping Springs, Texas, which is a small town out here, and there weren't exactly a whole lot of metal musicians in Dripping Springs, Texas, that were going to be playing melodic death doom metal, especially. So if there was someone who wanted to jam, it was just like it was still kind of worlds apart. There weren't that many people who were into this niche genre of shit. So it started there, and yeah, I was pretty much inspired. I was inspired by some of the guys who I was following, like from listening even just on. I discovered a lot of bands on Last FM. If you remember Last FM, I would always get these recommendation radio things, and that's how I discovered a lot of my favorite music, actually. But there was music from Finland and Europe that, like, I didn't even know a lot of these bands were European or Finnish at first, but like that's just happened to be how it was. Tomas of Wolfheart, actually, one of his earlier bands, Black Sun Neon, I found out he was just doing all the instruments himself, and he was just a multi-instrumentalist. So that sort of inspired me to break out the bass and like try to program some drums and do some stuff, do everything like vocals and all that stuff, and just self-produce the first demo of the Hinayana project. And that was the first release, called Endless. Yeah, that was back in 2014, and things have changed a lot since then. I didn't think that the band was actually even going to really be much of a thing. I just knew I wanted to put out the music itself. I just said I wanted to get it out there. There was nobody else to jam with. There was no money to record an album with. It was just okay, just me and my me and my plays, and I'm just gonna record this and put this out. But whenever people started saying nice things about it online, and I put it up on Bandcamp, and I saw all this like press kind of trickle in and people reviewing this thing, and like I was like, oh wow, okay, people are actually into this. And that was really shocking to me, and that sort of inspired me to like actually want to like, okay, well then I should flesh this out and like find other people to jam with and find other people to help me turn this into a real band. And over the next like 4 years after that, that's exactly what I did. It took a while, but like I ended up finding people to be in the band, and it's funny. I tell people like half my band is from Craigslist. No one uses that anymore, but it was musicians wanted ads from Craigslist for my guitarist and my drummer, and that's Erik and Daniel, and those guys are still in the band, two of my very best friends, which is just hilarious. But yeah, so we all kind of came together and we made it happen. We've had different band members throughout the years, but the lineup we're with right now is very good. I'm very happy with, and we've got good people working with us. And yeah, so that's a little backstory on the band.
Nice. First of all, I met my band on Craigslist sounds a lot better than I met my significant other on Craigslist. So right off the bat,
hell yeah, yeah.
Or bought a house on Craigslist. I mean, like sketchy,
Right.
Scarier things have happened for sure on Craigslist.
Yep.
And it's funny that you mentioned Last FM and Bandcamp. I understand that late stage capitalism is a whole thing, and I'm very gutted about what's going on over at Bandcamp. As we record this today, they fired like half their staff yesterday after
I
the
heard
sale.
something about
This is
that. Yeah.
brutal, and it's been my favorite platform. And just like Last FM and Reverb Nation before it, and Bandzoogle, platforms come and go. I understand there's a couple in the works that may give the power back to bands again. But thankfully, this last couple of generations of people, it wasn't that long ago ago that Trivium was like a teenage band on MySpace. Not to compare them, but like or Parkway Drive was like one of the very first Facebook bands that became big on. So like anything's possible in terms of the highest heights of metal. Anything can happen, even underground metal. And then so you started as a solo artist. You started to put this band together, but now you're on Napalm Records, which is a humongous label in the metal world. They are a major metal label. So how did you get connected with them and eventually signed to them?
So we were reached out to by an A&R guy over at Napalm on social media, and we have our theories. We're not exactly sure how they discovered us, but we think that they discovered us through our friend the late Nature Gang in Bygall, who collaborated with us on our previous release, our EP. And I think he had done some social media posts, or we had done some social media posts about working with him. And I think that they might have seen that. He was such a cool guy too, and he was signed with them, his band Tenger Cavalry, which is really awesome. If any of you out there haven't looked up that band, that's some really cool Mongolian nomadic folk metal. It's just badass stuff. Very cool. The horsehead fiddle, all the throat singing, all that stuff is so awesome. But yeah, so I think that my theory is that's how they discovered us. And it took a little while to like negotiate a contract and get the deal all down and everything. But this was also during COVID too, mind you. So there was a lot of like, everything was in limbo. There was a certain point where we had an EP finished. It was Death of the Cosmic was totally done with, and we were just sitting on it. We had a music video, we had the music, and we just had a deal that was sort of in limbo, and the music industry was in limbo, and everything just seemed like it was just like hanging, like, oh god, what is going to happen, are we going to get signed and the music career is going to go like places, or is the whole world going to forget about music and live music and everything? And is this whole thing going to fall apart? So that was really tough, but we made it through it, and we released an album. We released the EP like in 2020, like at the height of COVID. And it actually did pretty well for an EP being released then. Yeah, so that's kind of how we got started with them. And it's been an awesome partnership ever since. Like, they've been doing a great job for this album too. And I'm excited to continue to work with them, honestly.
Right on. And shout out to their PR, and Freeman is our longtime associate, and as well as their in-house PR, Natalie. We know them for eons. And super shout out to Nature. He was a friend of mine when I lived in Brooklyn. I live on the West Coast now, but
oh wow,
many good times with that guy, and all respect and power to his memory and his music, which continues to live on, thankfully.
Yeah,
and,
he was such a super nice dude. He was really nice, and he didn't have an ego at all. Like, I knew him briefly, but in that brief period of time, he was super nice, super encouraging, super cool dude. And he didn't brag about his own accomplishments. And I honestly only found out about a lot of his big stuff that he did after the fact, after he'd passed away. So it was like, wow, he didn't brag about, he didn't sit there and like just talk about his own stuff. He was interested in what we were doing, So that's very humble guy.
That's really cool. He also was briefly a resident of Texas at one point.
We went to hang out with him over here. That was
he was doing video game composing and stuff like that. And who knows, the sky was the limit for him.
Mm-hmm.
So very sad, but glad that we're having a good chat about him now.
Yeah.
And Shatter and Fall, man, I got to spend some time with it. I like to listen to everything when I go to interview somebody, so sometimes these are very long listening sessions, but I got to go back and revisit. We had covered the earlier EP, and then this new record's a banger. And obviously everybody says they're late at my newest record is my best record, but it really does sound like kind of, rather than a compilation of keep continuing what you did, it sounds like that you guys worked heavily on the songwriting and different elements of the band. So was there anything in particular you like, oh, we have to top this, or we want to improve that? Was there anything like that spoken about before the record? You just went in and wrote and recorded, and then here we are?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, like actually one of the main goals for writing this album was really, like, honestly, I would say, to put it simply, finding our own voice and finding our own sound amongst the all the existing melodic death metal stuff that's out there right now, and really setting us apart from our influences, and finding some stuff that, and not falling into like too many typical like melodic death metal cliches when it comes to riffing or when it comes to melodies and chord progressions and stuff. And so there was a really heavy emphasis on like, okay, like, we're avoiding this, we're doing that instead. We're going to be trying to improve on our sound from the EP, and but still give some of the listeners a little taste of like some of the old stuff, like the old style too. So there's a little bit of old and new on there, as far as like, you know, we have some stuff that's reminiscent of the EP, and then there's some stuff that's totally different and sounds nothing like anything on the EP. So yeah, we wanted to like really make that next step, like, and obviously, yes, definitely top the, like, yeah, you gotta always come out with something that's, you always gotta top your last release. You know, you always gotta at least try. And I've heard people say that your sophomore album or your second album is your most important, and I was taking that pretty seriously when writing this. It took a while to write the album, and I was being a perfectionist about it. I really wanted it to make an impact and be one that we were proud of, like 10 years later down the line. You know, we're looking through in discography, be like, okay, yeah, this is one that we really gave it our full asses on. And yeah, I think we did that. I mean, I think that we really we left no stone unturned, and with that one we really tried to make it as good as it could be.
It's important, I want to say, in my generation, I think it was the third album, because bands had, you know, A&R was a big thing at labels, and obviously it still is for Napalm and some of these other relative labels. But also, I think now, because of the contraction of the music industry, it is the second full length, or the second release, that matters a lot in terms of like what sets you up for longevity. So nice job. I think the thing that people are going to gravitate to on Shatter and Fall, these guest appearances. And so I always love the chicken and egg idea. Did you write these songs and then say, you know who'd be good on this is XYZ, or did you write a song with guest artists in mind? Because I'm always curious about that.
Yes, that's a great question too. Yeah, like basically I wrote the songs, and then we decided, we knew from the beginning, after we had a guest vocalist on the EP, which that was our first time doing that. On Death of the Cosmic, we had Tony from the band Hanging Garden, and that was an awesome guest vocal spot. We knew, okay, with Shatter and Fall, we wanted to have one or two. We wanted at least one or two guest vocalists on there, and we didn't know which songs we were going to do the guest vocals on at first. Everyone kind of had some different suggestions, but we landed on two songs that were pretty unique and would kind of mesh with it. The reason we chose, for instance, the first song on the album that has a guest vocalist is Mind is a Shadow, and that one we chose to have a guest vocalist on because it felt different than the other songs on the album. It had a little bit of a brighter tone, a little bit more major chords in there, and we were like, this could use something different. You know, this could use like a different vocal style. And we were actually in the van, I think, when we were discussing this. We were like coming back from a gig or something, and we were talking about, God, you know who'd be great for that is Jake from Ether Realm, one of our friends now. You know, we've known him for some years now, ever since we opened for Ether Realm here in Austin, one of their tours when they were coming through, and we kept in touch with him, and just like we really love his raspy vocal style, and it really contrasts like with mine, which is I guess darker. You know, as high pitches like want to do them or try to do them, he's still just got that raspiness, you know, which is just cool, and it really fits that song. Whereas Tomas, for instance, we wanted Tomas to be on one of our songs for years now. And honestly, it's funny because he was going to do the guest vocal spot that Tony did on the last album, or on the EP. And it just didn't work out schedule wise, you know, with the studio and whatever. It just didn't happen. Whereas this time around, everything just aligned perfectly. We had discussed it, you know, we had just toured with them and everything, and then coming back, and then it was perfect timing, and it worked out. Like I think that song also it's slower. It kind of reminds me of some of like with his vocals, it kind of reminds me of some of his older stuff like Black Sun Eon and Dawn of Solace, and it kind of, I don't know, it's nostalgic for me a little bit. But yeah, so these songs were written, and then we decided that we wanted to definitely have some guest vocalists on there.
Nice. It definitely adds a lot of character to the album and shakes it up a little. Does not just all you the whole time. It does help. And I just think in general, guest appearances, especially if they're done really well, you know, make people cling on to a thing a little heavier. So that's cool. And just again, just super cool for you to get these experiences and these comrades onto your records. And you know, you guys are heading over to Europe soon, right in time for the release, which is major. And I feel like Wolfheart is such, not just the camaraderie and the mutual respect, but such a good match for this band to you guys to open for them. I think it's such a good deal.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that's a perfect tour for us. And then also Before the Dawn, I mean, him resurrecting his old band like that. That was one of those bands that I listened to in high school. I remember driving my car to school and like listening to Before the Dawn and stuff, and just going through all their discography and all that shit. And yeah, so it's really cool to like have Wolfheart and one of the bands that he resurrected, you know, just being able to do that, yeah, it's a perfect match, perfect blend of aggression and melody, and people who show up for those bands are really gonna, I think they're gonna get a kick out of what we do.
It's definitely a killer bill. I'm gonna take a look at the tour dates and see where Ghost Cult can. We're also, somewhat based in Europe, so see if any of our staff out there can catch a show and see that, because we do, whenever Wolfheart says boo, we jump, because that's how we love them. We've been big fans and supporters of that band their whole existence, basically. So anything we can do to help prop them up, we do. And again, we work a lot with Napalm. That's kind of one of our labels we like to champion. And you're not supposed to have favorites, but we kind of do. And it's but we don't show favoritism. It's always bands that are well deserved.
Yeah.
Anything else going on that you can share? Like I'm sure you're gonna do a record release show locally, or you got any U.S. tour plans for 24 maybe on tap that you can share yet, or not yet?
Yeah, so we don't have anything that we can share yet as far as plans that are set in stone for 2024, but that is what the goal is. Yeah, that is what we want to do next is, and it's kind of funny. We're about to do our second European tour before even touring the US. We haven't toured the United States before. So it's kind of wild that like it's taking this long for us to, get picked up on a tour here that is like a decent tour. So fingers crossed, that's what our goal is. We have some potential things in the works. Can't say anything about it yet. Expect after this interview, there will be another single released before the album release. So if you guys, out there want to look forward to that. Really we're continuing to slug away and hopefully do some US touring and hopefully the sky's the limit for us with some of this. We're going to try our best.
Absolutely. And I also think we've got a new prevalence of underground metal festivals in the US. Nothing is quite as great as Europe, other than the mainstreamy stuff with a few, obviously there's some great ones, but hopefully in 2024 it's not too late to get you on some of those bills. I think you guys will go very well with the eclectic mix of death, doom, and still have some great.
I think so too.
In there.
Yeah, so fingers crossed. We're gonna try our best. we got some people working with us now, so hopefully momentum picks up. And we can't wait for the album to come out, and we really can't wait to show people the rest of the world the rest of the tracks on the album.
And just for a last thing, I always love to end these with a wild card question. Not that wild, but this one's a little wild. If you could invite 3 people to dinner of your choice, alive or dead, could be famous, could be metal musicians, could be anybody in history, who would you invite?
That's tough. Well, first of all, I gotta pay respect to my father. I'd have my father at dinner because he's entertaining as hell, and he's the guy who inspired me to do music in the first place. So my dad would be there, right there. Oof, I would say, that's tough. Maybe I would have, as far as non-musicians, I think, I don't know if anyone, Jeremy Clarkson would be pretty fun. That would
not dull
here. That would be an entertaining one. And then, the first song I ever heard was that was metal. That was really metal. Was "Enter Sandman" by Metallica. So probably James Hetfield. I'd probably if I was gonna do that. Yeah, probably those 3. That'd be an interesting conversation.
Clarkson and Hetfield could go off on cars. They'll go buck wild on
exactly
motor vehicles, right? Because Hetfield's a serious collector, and obviously he knows Top Gear. So good times. That's a good trio right there. That's one of the better answers we've had actually. That's one that stumps people. So you did very well there. Cassy Hurd of Hinayana.
Good.
So good to talk to you and get to hear a little bit of your story and share that with the Ghost Cult audience. Man, best of luck to you with Shatter and Fall coming out on Napalm Records.
Thank you.
And just, I hope to see you next year in person at a show.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.